I got kicked in the nuts so hard this morning by my little girl. Like it was like a direct hit.
Oh, damn.
So,
Sorry
you
for your
sound
loss.
like,
It takes you down, doesn't it? You have to go down to the floor.
oh, it feels like, I don't know. It
Okay.
feels like the devil's entered your
See,
soul
your
when
daughters
someone
are
kicks you in the nuts.
learning young.
Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross, and I'm the founder at designcuts.com. And this week I'm joined by my fellow Brit and hand lettering expert, Ian Barnard, American retro design expert, Dustin Lee, and the ever-talented South African illustrator, Lisa Glantz. This week, we continue our discussion on how to create and sell a successful digital product. We dig in depth on how to present your digital products by using stunning presentational graphics. This is an absolute masterclass in branding and using visuals to help sell your work online. So without further ado, let's get into the show. So we're picking up where we left off last time, talking about how to create and sell successful digital products. And I think we were tempted last time, weren't we, to pack it all into one. And then we realized we had a lot more to say because this is clearly what we're all passionate about. So I think the point we left it was talking about preview graphics and the importance of that. If you missed last week's episode, I highly recommend go listen to that first. This is obviously going to be the setup for today's discussion. But yeah, preview graphics. I think they are unbelievably essential. I will tell you why, and then I'll pass the mic off to my three talented co-hosts to do the real work and provide the value for you dear listeners at home. So the reason I know they're essential is because we see incredible quality products not selling very well because they have crappy previews. And then we see kind of average products sell really well because they have incredibly inspiring previews. It is quite literally your shop front. If you ran a shop in real life, if one shop front was gleaming and appealing, you get a ton of customers coming in. If the other shop was hideous and messed up looking and was covered in graffiti or whatever, you wouldn't get many customers. And it baffles me continuously how many people neglect this. Bearing in mind, we work with so many, like hundreds of designers. Some of them are sickeningly talented. They're creating some of the best products in the world, right? And we actually have a team in-house that will regularly redesign preview graphics from people we work with because we know it's going to help sales. Like whether it's in a bundle they're in or like their long-term sales or whatever, we're so pernickety with this stuff that we just take it upon ourselves to basically sort the previews out and take them up a level.
When I first started my shop, so I was buying stuff on marketplaces before I started my shop. And this is when marketplaces were new, they were really starting to come into their own. And I found it so strange that people that for a living made graphic design stuff, like were graphic designers, did such an absolutely like make me want to puke job of creating previews and covers for their graphic design products. It was literal insanity when I saw it. And no joke, one of the big reasons that I started doing it was because I said, hey, I don't have to be as good as these guys. I just have to make a better cover and better preview images. Because this is crazy. I mean, it's like you're playing like against like, I don't even know. I don't want to get too harsh. It was just like,
oh,
clearly,
I think you've already crossed that line.
Well, just clearly there was a gigantic gap in the market and I didn't understand why people were missing it. You hear a lot of times people say, if you want to sell a product, you have to create aspirational images. If the images you're showing people of your product don't make them say, I wish I could do that, no one's going to buy something from you. They don't buy it and look at something and say, that's pretty good. If only I could do something pretty good instead of good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's so vital. And this is not us being like business marketing geeks. This is essential. And all of you guys nail this consistently. You are amazing with your previews. But Dustin, I think from like the earliest on, I looked at your previews and thought, damn, like real care and attention's gone into them. It looks like as much work goes into the previews as the product.
100%.
And they take a long time, but I would literally factor that into the product's development. And if you spend
definitely
twice as long, if you literally do spend as much time on the previews as the product, who cares, because it's worth it?
Yeah,
it is.
I really honestly think that, I mean, a lot of my products, I'd say 50% of the time was spent on the previews. It's so important. I actually sometimes, like, while I'm creating it, I think, that would be good to show in the preview, and you know, almost like design not really, but design the product around the preview. It's like, it's really important, because you want to, I mean, how's your customer ever going to know what's inside the pack? Like, that's your only chance to get them excited about it, explain what it is, show them what it is. There's no ways they're going to know otherwise. And that always baffles me, that people make this massive assumption that you know, everybody's going to think, oh, well, I know how good it is, everyone else is going to know how good it is. There's no way. They're just going to move on to the next product that looks better than yours, and it probably isn't better.
I like
than
that you said move on, because they do that incredibly quickly. People, you can't expect them to dig through trying to work out, like, oh, well, it looks crappy, but it might not be, so I'm going to spend 5 minutes digging through every detail to see if it is. They'd be like, next, that's a pile of crap. Next, like.
You have seconds.
And don't you kind of go in your head and say, if this is what they did on the public part that I can see, why would I expect anything better on the part that I can't see?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So are there any patterns of what make a good preview? Because honestly, we're getting to the point. I'm going to play this episode to a lot of people we work with. I genuinely want to do like a webinar or a guide on how to do it properly, because a lot of the stuff plays out again and again. So first of all, cover image, right? The front image of the pack. That's the most essential. That's what people see first of all. It's what's going to grab their eye. It should be eye-catching. It should sum up the pack pretty much instantly, where you see it and you should get two feelings, like A, that looks awesome and really creative, and B, I understand what it does and I want to know more. Right?
That's exactly how I feel.
Dustin does a really good job of, or for me personally, making me want the product even though I don't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true. It is.
Well, I was going to say, not to trade compliments here, buddy. I was going to say, like, on your new pack, your Procreate pack with the lettering, because I was thinking, well, I always think cover should be super attractive first of all, and then I think, like Tom does, they should also show you what they do. Your pack, for the new lettering pack you did, does such a fantastic job of showing you what that product does. You look at it, and even on a small thumbnail, because it has this blueprint feel to it, you make a very good assumption. Oh, this is going to make my life easier. Like Lisa said, I can be fairly new to this and make some really great looking lettering work. I mean, it's so clear from this little thumbnail that's, you know, the size of what, 4 postage stamps maybe put together?
Yeah.
I mean, very small.
Yeah, I think
so true.
Like, sometimes I get an idea for a cover and I manage to get it out exactly what it looks like in my head.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't. And sometimes I really struggle and I like end up just going, and sometimes I just can't get it, you know, do you know what I mean? It's just, but with that one, it was like, okay, here's some tips for a good cover. If it's like, for this one, if it's like Photoshop or brushes or Procreate brushes, having an Apple Pencil on it really helps. Or a stylus, because that just sums up exactly what it is straight away. You know, that it's to do with brushes. And then an example of what those brushes do, and then a finished result sort of thing. So a bit of everything. So, you know, so that people can look at it without even reading any. It could just be blocks of colour rather than actual letters or anything, and know thing, and understand straight away what it is. Not all products are going to be able to do that, but I think another one that worked really well and that inspired this one was my my woodblock lettering pack, where it was like, wood type stuff. And so I put like a roller in it, which I actually used in the actual process of making the textures, and some of the old letters, the woodblock letters themselves. So you sort of get the idea of what the product's going to do without even reading the description. Because the thing is, what I see is that people ask me questions that I've blatantly written in the description, but they won't read the description.
They don't read. People don't read.
People don't have time to read.
No.
And
what, so they'll be like, was this created authentically using woodblock letters? And you're like, look at the picture, or you know what I mean? They look at the picture, but if it wasn't there, they ask those questions.
They ask the question. Yeah,
I've had people wearing the bullets. I'll put compatible with CS4 and above in the bullets. Bullets, one of the things designed to make it easy to scan. And people write me and say, does this work for CS4? And I started to realize recently, we did it all over our site now, right below the description in a colored box, it says compatible with X, because they need to see that to buy, and they will not do much work scanning. Not because, I mean, it's nothing against people looking, it's just how we scan. It has to be totally clear to them. The other thing is I've done heat maps. You know, have you heard of those where you can record a heat map and see where people are clicking and moving their mouse on your site? Yes. Far and away, cover image gets the most heat on the heat map, right? Followed by the first couple preview images, followed by like the first, maybe second, like bullet. But by far, and I've done recordings of people, the secret recordings where like it's recording them on their screen as they shop. And they don't even read. They go straight to the preview images. They look at the first one, they click. Look at that second one, look at the third one, click through the rest real quick, go back to a couple they like, go back and forth, dun, 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 this one, that one, this one, that one, the same ones, and then they're either gone or they buy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your preview images should be strong enough that you could literally almost get rid of the copy and someone could make a buying decision.
That's an amazing tip, actually. And I completely agree. And I think, Ian, you do a great job with this as well, where you get like the annotations on the previews. So it's like a diagram, right? Of saying everything it can do.
Something that I like, I did a similar thing. It's not so much now because it's less of a sort of before and after. But actually one of my products is a product preview kit to help people.
I bought that from you.
Because something that I wanted to show people was that sometimes you couldn't do in the previews is that like a zoomed in on the textures. So I created a product where I could drop it in and then it would automatically zoom in on certain areas and I just adjust it. And it would do a before and after and it would do a gallery. And that was my format every time I do it because that's what people want to see. It's like, think of fitness, one of the biggest industries in the world. People want to see before and after, and they want to see dramatic before and after, and they want to see how great you're going to look after you've been doing the plan and stuff like that.
So they want to see before and after, but they also want to see, like you said, with the close-up. I don't even know what you call that, but they want to see what they're actually getting. So it's like, here's the start, like here's a visual of what it can do for me. It takes it from this to this, but by showing the close-up, it's also like, it's reducing risk. You're not going to purchase these textures and find out they're fuzzy or they're not high res because it shows it at 100% resolution zoomed in.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, for instance, me and Dustin would do it quite a lot, and it was like the edges of the lettering would be slightly jaggedy, vintage sort of, the print would be like that, and there'd be like an inner texture, and you want to pick out the points of why this product is special, I suppose. You want to pick out, like they would do with a car, they pick out, okay, it's got four-wheel drive or it's got sat-nav. So it's drilling in on things that people were really, and I suppose you could do this in your research phase, that you're drilling into things that people really want.
Well, it's kind of like what you had mentioned about the comments, Ian, where you said, read the comments and see what people say. If you can find what people say in comments about something and then zoom in on those on diagrams on your product, they'll say, there's that thing that guy that I kept asking on Dribble how he did it and never answered me. Here's this guy zooming in on it and showing me how he did it and offering it to me for $15 or $19 or whatever. And you're sold. And added to that, this is a little bit evil, but I think this is 100% true about when people buy. Your chances of getting someone to buy is directly proportional to how sad they feel leaving the page if they don't get it. So like if you look at Ian's, for instance, like lettering thing, right? You look at that as someone like that has lettered a little bit, but is no good. If I really wanted to letter and put some stuff up on Instagram and I saw that and I knew I was nowhere near as good as Ian, I would think, I feel really sad leaving and not taking this because this means that I can't do that. And I feel sad about that. So make people feel sad if they don't get your product. It's a cold world, people. It's a cold, cold world.
It's a couple of things. When you want them to arrive, they arrive thinking they can create because for me, I was using like Grid Builder. I was using it. And so and Stefan was using it. So two people they probably know if they're following on the lettering sort of circuit. And so we're using it in our work. So they're thinking, okay, I see them as an inspiration. I want to be like them in terms of getting out their work like that. So you come along thinking, okay, they've given me something that enables me to do stuff like they can. And then, like you say, if they don't get it, then they're, go away sad. And that's the hope. And
it's just like Lisa's illustration thing. It's so good. I don't even want to do that particular stuff, but it's so well done that I got a little sad. You're like,
I really want to own it.
Maybe, if I wasn't doing this, maybe I would find something neat I could do.
You, Dustin.
Someday I'll remember.
I'll be like, kids, come here. We're going to do this. We're going to create our whole family.
Well, it's the same with design cuts, right? Because you see some of these bundles and they're so comprehensive and have so many good things in them that you're like, okay, this is a great deal. Everything I need is here. I'm going to be sad all day long if I don't do this, and you can't deal with the sadness. It's like a breakup where instead of breaking up, you can pay $29 and all of a sudden the sad breakup feeling goes away.
And we hear that. We get hilarious comments from people where they're like, tonight I'll be sleeping in a cardboard box and my dinner is going to be lighter fluid because I shouldn't have spent the money on this, but I didn't want to go away not having it. And just jumping for a second back to the previews, because my mind's kind of whirling now because there are so many things which we do look at day to day with this. And Ian, when you're talking about calling out the close-ups and the key, I guess, value propositions for people, really try and get inside the head of people that are going to buy it. And you could call out stuff about potentially how authentic it was, if that could be a key thing. So it's like everyone else is doing digital fakes, but like often that happens with gold, right? Gold textures. People go and take a picture of their fridge, the stainless steel, and then put a yellow overlay over it, and it sucks. Whereas you could be doing close-ups saying, I actually went and paid a load of money for like some gold leaf stuff, and this is actual gold, and that's a key point about why you might want this. Or it could be, I've made this so simple to use, it takes literally 3 steps, and that's one of the call-outs. You know what I mean? It's either like authenticity or quality or ease of use, whatever it might be, or uniqueness,
whatever. Yeah,
like, or like endless options, like with your portrait creator, could be there's this many options, or create an entire family or whatever it might be. That's the stuff you should be calling out, I think.
But don't overwhelm them. Take maybe limit it. Like when I was doing the sort of zooming in thing, I'd limit it to 5. Between 4 and 5, because otherwise they just won't read it because there's just too much going on. And so you just need to be like, okay, what am I trying? What's the most important thing I want them to take away? If they're only going to look at a few previews, they need to get what this product is about or how it works. So, so like for instance, if it is effects that happens, show that like I'd normally use the letter A and have it in 3 instances. The beginning, I've just typed it in, I've chosen an effect, and then I've got the finished result, so they know that it's just that simple timeline or simple conveyor belt of this is how it works. And another thing is that you need a one line to sum it up.
I was going to say you need that umbrella concept before you get into
which you can put on the cover, and you put in the first line of your description. So for the Grid Builder one, it was create stunning lettering layouts with ease.
And
nice. So
and notice how on his title there, the title literally gives you 90% of a good guess of what the product is. I mean, that's really important.
Yeah, or like
Yeah,
100% pretty much.
The name is something that's so hard to come up with, but sometimes so important. And I come up with a name, and I think I need to revolve a product around this. I literally come up with a name first. Like I find this cool name. I think I go and search for it, make sure no one else has used it, and it might be a font. And I'm like, I haven't even got any ideas yet, but I love this name and I want to do something with it.
Yeah. Okay. Another cool thing is people love a story, and it's very rare that people go to this much length. And so when they do, it really stands out. So I'm going to keep going with the authentic, easy to use gold texture pack, kind of hypothetical pack here, right? So rather than being like, here's a bunch of gold textures, it's like, meh, no one cares. If you set the story of like, I decided to go on a mission, looking for treasure like Nicolas Cage or whatever, and I went down to my buddy who works at the bank, and he let me in the vault, and I got some like realistic gold bars. I know none of this would happen, but you see where I'm going. Like, and
yes,
and you documented it, and you're like, I got these gold bars, and like, here's me like holding up the gold bar, all proud of it. And then I took it home and I like photographed it and scanned it in, and etc., and took all these steps and all this care and time to make it this authentic thing. By showing the entire story and process, you stand out against literally 99% of other people who are like, I took a photo of my fridge and put a yellow thing over it. Because through doing it, you're showing like your expertise, your authenticity, your passion. People connect with stories. But through doing all of that, you are subconsciously inferring the quality of the pack by weaving that in, but in a non-salesy way. So it's in a way that's kind of entertaining, but at the same time, you're mentally going, oh, this must be good if he went to that much trouble.
I'll riff on that. I have an exact story of that, and it works so well. I was surfing on eBay a couple of years ago, and I found this catalog. It was an old Army surplus catalog, and it was selling for, I don't know, like $50-something or something. And it had these beautiful halftones, which sounds super dorky unless you're a graphic designer, but it really, really did. And I loved this book, and I thought I could get these halftones and make a pack of halftones that you could paint on an Illustrator with it, is what I thought. So I started bidding on the book, thinking I'm going to scan these in and make this into a brush pack. I ended up bidding it up to like $200 against this other dude. I mean, we're talking like, something that someone would throw in the trash. It was like a very small catalog. It was not worth $200. But I got it, and then I used it to make the halftone pack. And I wrote that story about it. And I was like, I got into a bidding war. It cost me $200 to buy this Army surplus catalog from 1950, so whatever. Cool. And then I scanned these things in. And that story, I don't know for sure that's why it sold well, but I can't imagine it wasn't part of it, because the authenticity of that is so interesting.
Of course.
Well, you know what? Halftone packs are not that unique. There's tons of them.
No.
But yours,
there's a lot of them.
I'm like, that's like an amazing, interesting, cool product, not just another halftone bag. And it's because of stuff like that.
I used to hate when Dustin released another product, because I was like, oh, please don't let him have a nice story that goes with it. Please. Oh, I've done it again. Because I'll be like, oh.
That's seriously, like, for anyone listening, I want this episode to be a goldmine, because people don't talk openly about this stuff that much.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, even with my description, my writing up isn't as, it's not the same as yours, Dustin, but I aim for that in my previews. Like I try and create a world, if I can call it that, when people are looking through my previews. So even if you're not selling like a texture pack or a brush pack and you're doing more illustration work, there's, you got to think of drawing your audience in and making them stay and making them come along for the ride. It sounds dramatic, but that's actually really what you're doing, and you're convincing them, trying to convince them why they should buy your pack.
Well, there's an interesting story I heard, slightly unrelated to this, but it's about the power of stories, where they got random stuff from garage sales that was worth nothing, and then they put it on eBay to sell it with just a very straightforward, here's what this is description. And then they got people like, I believe they got Stephen King and a variety of other super great writers to write fictional stories behind the object and then put it up for sale, the same thing. And the price was like sometimes like, if I remember correctly, it was like sometimes like 20 times as high.
Yep.
Wow.
That's awesome. I would say definitely try and weave in testimonials and social proof, kind of along the lines of what Dustin's saying as well. But if you open it up to a select number of people or give some people a free copy in exchange for feedback, especially if they're a respected name and they're willing to do it, I guarantee if someone did a cool illustration pack and then on preview image number 2, it was like, this is like the most charming pack I've seen in the past year. Like, it's amazing. Great job from Lisa Glanz. That would have a lot of weight behind it. Okay. Like, you know, why not?
Yeah.
And on the note of like what we talked about with weaving the story, it doesn't necessarily need to be as in depth as we highlighted. It could literally be showing a quick video or photo of you building the thing. And I know when we did the vintage pack with Tom Chalky, in the promo video for that, we had like a time-lapse thing of him scanning vintage books into his scanner and drinking coffee sat at his desk. And we were saying how many like hundreds of hours he'd spent doing that. And so when you're saying there's this many illustrations, he's literally sat here for like days and days drinking coffee and doing this, instantly go, well, that's pretty damn good value for $29 or $39, given that he's like, you know, bleeding from his eyes doing this thing. Like it all just it ups the value proposition. And I'm going to keep going here because I think another thing is mockups. We haven't touched on mockups. Show how you can actually use the product. That's the key thing of like, how am I going to use this? Like, it's not just nice to look at. How am I going to use it? All the time. Like, we see this with fonts. It's like, well, that's a nice font. What am I going to use it for? That's a nice pattern. What am I going to use it for? And we kind of got like a running joke in the office where if we're not sure how to use something, it's normally textures or whatever. Matt, our creative director, is like, phone cases, or like, you know, you kind of start saying the same thing. So sometimes you're like, oh yeah, you definitely use that for wedding invites, or this would have like corporate commercial application or whatever. And we kind of all stare at it, kind of unsure, and be like, could be on a phone case maybe. Like, it's just
yeah, that's not good if you're guessing. That's a sure.
What's hard is that because I don't really do any straightforward graphic design anymore, I find it sometimes really tricky to know how to use my work, like especially if it's fonts, because like I don't actually use fonts that much. You know, the only time I really use them is when it's like a sans serif, simple sans serif to complement the hand drawn lettering stuff I'm doing.
But do you never look at a font and think, oh, it'd be perfect for that? That would be perfect for like a magazine spread or something.
Yeah.
I suppose sometimes they do. And I suppose that's why sometimes it's good to work with other people to sort of maybe say, well, how would you use this? You know, if I gave you a free copy of it.
Yeah, get another.
You know, what would it look good? You know, I've got friends in the past to do it for me because sometimes they've got a fresh approach. You know, I might have an idea if it's a vintage font that it might look good on this or that. But they might have a different opinion because obviously everybody uses fonts differently. So sometimes good to, because because one of my fonts got used on the Krispy Kreme poster for one of their Nutella donuts. Cool. And I was like, that's not something I would have ever thought about. So using it. So, you know, sometimes it's good to get fresh eyes on what would look good. You know, discuss it with other designer people you know and see what.
It's a very good idea. I think the whole purpose of those graphics is it sparks people's imagination. So I've seen amazing products with amazing previews, great cover, great inner previews. It shows all the key points of what the product can do, but it leaves out palpable examples. It leaves out the mock-ups. And I end up going through and I'm like, well, I feel kind of really inspired and it looks awesome, but I have no clue how I would actually use that in my life. And that's quite a big missing piece.
And I think a big part of the reason people do that is, you know, we're constantly saying, how can I justify this purchase? So if we can say, oh, well, I would, you know, put Lisa's characters onto this Etsy bag and it costs $39. There's no way that I'm not going to make $39 off of these tote bags, exactly. I'm going to put this on. Then you say, well, it's a no-brainer. It's really free.
Exactly.
So I think like the more you can show that to people, the more people say, oh, well, it's just an investment that gives me money back.
The thing is, what I did with my vector press one, so the textures on type, I showed that you could actually turn a clean typeface that you'd made and texturize the whole, the whole other part. And so then you had something else to add with. So if you were creating a product, you were creating a font, you could make a textured version of it using my product. So yeah, those
cool.
where you can add. Where you can add even more, like you say, about continuing to add value, showing people either you can create awesome stuff like you see on the internet, or if you can make money via the product or through the product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I have to point out, it may seem obvious to you, as the creator of what you can do with it, but I promise you that people need to be told.
Yes.
You really do have to spell it out. You think it's so obvious. Well, obviously they're going to know they must use it for this, but it's not that clear to people. They really do need guidance.
Yes, they do. They need hand holding.
And that's actually that's a good segue into instructions and other.
Oh yes.
Oh, so this is beefing up the value, right, Ian?
Yes. So something that I. Like at the beginning, I would just add a text document, say you need to open it in like Illustrator or something like that, or whatever like vintage logo. It was just literally a paragraph of text, and it had no pictures or anything like that. And then I realized, I was getting questions from people saying, "Oh, what do you do about this?" or "How do you do that?" And I was like, actually, maybe I'll make, I know how to use InDesign. Part of, I did magazine design, so I knew, and brochures, I knew that I could put something together. So in what I started to do every time, not with fonts, because it would just be a case of how to install them on the machine, but for Photoshop ones or Illustrator ones, I would take screenshots of every stage and explain it on every stage with diagrams, making it easy to understand, but with like pointers of where you've got to click. Because the thing is, sometimes it's just like a little drop down thing on a panel that doesn't always show up when you open Illustrator. So they might open up an Illustrator and I say, open up the actions panel. And they're like, well, it's not here. I can't see it. And you have to tell them that you need to go to, window and select it.
Yeah, make it obvious.
Yeah.
Spell it out.
So whatever you think sounds really like, really basic, go even further than that. Because, there's people who, like, a lot of the people comment, message me and say, I've got really basic knowledge in Photoshop, and and a lot of people are like that, because that's the reason why they're buying your product, is because they got basic knowledge. They want to create something cool, but they haven't got that know-how. So you have to think, so the thing is, if you make your level of entry as low as possible, that's more people who can buy your product.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's a good quote.
It's another opportunity. Yeah, it's true. It's also another opportunity for branding. Because if you make your instruction like really awesome, I mean, I know, Dustin, you are a pro at that. It's like almost like something you want to frame some of your stuff. So it's like another opportunity to really get your brand out there, design a really cool instruction that people will enjoy reading. It's easy to read, and you're just adding that extra value. Plus you could even add in a voucher code if you want to your website. I mean, I don't know. There's like
or a link saying,
a lot of things.
If you're still stuck, contact me here. I'd love to help.
Yes, that's given. You got to do that.
The whole thing, right? It's like the complete experience. It's like when people buy Apple products, they enjoy the unpackaging and all that as much as they do the product. And it helps you differentiate so much, because most people don't put this much finesse or care into what they're doing. They do an average crappy quality product with hideous previews, and then you get it. And what I see most of the time is you get the product, and if it has any kind of support document at all, it'll be like a text edit file, which is unformatted and is like hideous to look at, and you don't want to read in the first place. So when you stumble across a product like Dustin's or any of you guys, it's such a joy, but it's also so different that it just sticks in your mind. And next time you want a product, you're going to go with one of you guys because it's so much better.
I've literally had in reviews people say, oh, you can tell this company really gives a crap because they invested in making all of these so solid. They all have instructions that go with it. The instructions are clear that go with it. Plus, there's so many opportunities, right? Like, you go to all this work of making a product. Someone finally buys it. And then because you didn't want to spend the extra hour and a half to make your instructions look good, they see these text document instructions and see how lazy you were at the last minute, and they never buy it from you again. Whereas if you make this nice looking PDF, you can put a link to your shop. You can remind them that it's a single user license. So maybe you get more because they buy more licenses. You can give them, like Tom said, a coupon. I mean, there's so many opportunities here to stand out. I'm always like, man, you work so hard to get that customer. You're seriously not going to spend the hour and a half for the lifetime that's going to be on your site doing work for you?
Well said, Dustin.
I've bought products and just it leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth if one, there's like the instructions are just a few lines on a black and white document. Because I work in images, I very much I struggle with words, even though I try and put them in my product. I just I need an image, like IKEA. I don't read any words. I just look at the little man with his screwdriver and where I've got to put them. That's all I need because that's the way I work. And there's a lot of people work like that, just do the images, and why Instagram does so well. Mm-hmm. And so, for me, if I open it up and I just don't know how to, and then I can't then I'm sort of struggling around trying to use it and I can't get the effect. What another thing is, if they can't get the effect you do on your previews, then that's another really oh, what they must have done something else, to it. So, and you're left. You don't want people to leave your shop, your product, feeling like, that was a waste of money.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know before I mentioned Tanya's product, which is the hypothetical kids pack, right? So right now on her Etsy, I'm just trying to apply what we're talking about to her, if I could get my words out. So in this case, right now, she's got an Etsy shop and she's got like a bunch of small packs. One of them might be like watermelon slices with eyes on, right? Cute pack, but it's not kind of packaged up particularly. So if she did something more robust, and maybe, like we said, she targets teachers with one particular pack. So she calls it something like the classroom creation kit or something like that. And she does like a real stunning cover image for it. She gets into it and starts showing like, actual photos of her hands, like cutting out this stuff, like photos of her putting it on a classroom wall. She could have a bit of tongue-in-cheek stuff where if she has a kid, she could photograph them looking kind of sad as a before and then like happy afterwards, like holding up the printed thing as like a play on the before after concept. She does all like shows in depth what's in the product and like highlights some of the key benefits about, okay, it's like really easy. It includes PNG versions, like you can drag and drop it, whatever it might be. Like, and then she's actually showing mock-ups of it in use and that kind of like, hopefully everyone listening can start to see the difference between that and like a single preview showing some smiling watermelons. Like it is monumentally different for all the people being like, well, why is my stuff not selling like their stuff? It is like, it's leagues apart. And that's not to say that Tanya's built anything that's bad quality, far from it. But it is literally how you put it together, who you target, and how you package it up plays such a big part.
And I think a lot of people have this thing. Some designers think, well, why should I teach them how to use Illustrator or Photoshop? Why should I teach them how to put some? Because people don't want to go that extra mile, and that's what's going to put you apart. You're either going to be frustrated with your customers and not want to help them, or you really want to like do this because you love helping people, you love creating stuff that they love using, and you want to see them blossom and do their best, so it's all about the intention. And I think if you're not going to put in that extra time, then you'll probably plod along and kind of hit your plateau. But if you're going to put in that extra effort and all the extra bits that we're talking about, then I think you'll see your business do much better.
Definitely.
An interesting thing about all of this is there's a psychological thing I read about. I don't know what it's called. But the more you spend looking at someone's face or being around someone, the more likely you are to like them. So if you work with people, well, it's not a coincidence that the people you work with tend to be more likely your friends. It's not a coincidence that Ian finds me exceptionally charming and fun to be around because we see each other every week. It happens because he's forced to see me week in and week out. He can't help himself. So I guess the point is
that magnetism, Dustin.
Well, no, it isn't. It's just like the
American charm.
The regularness of it, right? So like people, for instance, hear me on here and they'll write in reviews, Dustin, this product was great, or they'll see in the instructions, they can kind of hear your voice in it, or they'll see the video where they hear your voice over it. They see so many things and they're getting exposed to you in a rated G way over and over again. Until like they feel comfortable, and we buy from people we like or know, right?
You put your personality into it, right?
Strangers on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you start to feel like it's a friend, Like I listen to Malcolm Gladwell's podcast. I feel like Malcolm Gladwell is my buddy. I'd buy something from him. I feel like I know the dude. He doesn't know who I am, but
just as a super quick aside, I don't often listen to this show myself. Like obviously we record it in the moment, and
that sounds like a good commercial for the show. Let's
I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. And I had a quick listen at the weekend, and some episodes, like, this is terrible to say about ourselves, like genuinely cracked me up. And there was something Ian said where I was just pissing myself laughing, where we were being a bit silly.
Was that when you were laughing at me for the whole 10 minutes?
Episode, yeah.
No, it was it might be the same episode, but it was where we were like bigging you up and being sort of super nice. And Ian just goes, "Yeah, thanks for the pleasantries." really, really uncharacteristically aggressive.
Because Ian was being honest, man. He was telling his story, and it was just him getting kicked in the stomach over and over again in this story, and you could so relate to it, man. I was just like, oh my gosh, man, this is the truth. This is the brutal truth.
Really tickle me there. So yes, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do something unprecedented right now.
Ooh,
nice. I
nice.
think we should do cliffhanger number 2, because it's been really fun talking with you guys about preview graphics. Obviously, this is part 2 of the whole digital products thing. I think we should segue into part 3 next week, talking about the real kind of ups and downs of passive income. Because I know we've talked before about, the different types, how you can make money online, but I want the actual gritty reality of what a head beep it can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sweet.
Good point.
Let's do it. Cool. Well, thanks so much for sharing your wealth of information, guys. Very candid of you. I'm expecting Ian to be like, yeah, thanks for the pleasantries. And to everyone,
this makes you sound really grumpy.
Yeah, I know. It was fantastic. Thank you so much to the dear listeners for tuning in. I hope it was helpful. If you are thinking about creating digital products, do re-listen to this one. Do re-listen to the last episode. I promise you, what we might try and do actually, we'll put together some Instagram content about this, but I do still want to put together a PDF, a guide or something like that, because I feel like there's quite a lot of points that we covered, but literally every one of them will help you to make more sales.
Yep.
Yeah. We want to help you do what we do, and to
help me to help you.
Help yourself.
As long as you don't take our market share, as long as you're not taking any share of what we're doing, do
I was
it.
waiting for that.
Yeah, so we've got effects packs, retro and watercolor covered. So as long as it's nothing to do with those areas, you're safe. But otherwise, we're coming for you.
I want someone to set up a shop which is like a supply of retro goods.
Yeah,
that's already happened so many times.
Cool. Well, we'll catch you guys next week.
See you later.
Bye.
All right, see ya.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that you found our tips on presentation and preview graphics helpful, and that they gave you a much clearer picture of how to successfully sell your products online. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com, or find us over on iTunes and Spotify by searching for The Honest Designers Show. And remember, we're now on social media too if you search for Honest Designers. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the absolute world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for other designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.